Hello folks and welcome to the Vertigo Tea Party and Let's Try Sym. It's developed by Atrax Games, published by Mastertronic. You can get it for $7.99 on Steam for Windows, Mac, and Steam Play. It supports Steam achievements, trading cards, cloud saves, and has a level editor. It also has a demo, so if you aren't 100% convinced from this video, you can always go ahead and try it yourself. Let's go ahead and hop into the level select here. Now, the interesting thing about this game is it's supposed to be representing a young boy, a teenage boy, dealing with social anxiety disorder. And the mechanic with this game is you have like the normal you, right, that just runs around the world normally, and kind of the shadow you, the kind that's safe, that's hidden in your cocoon, away from other people, away from prying eyes, things of that nature, where you're going to hopefully be more safe from people out in the world. Now, of course, I don't have social anxiety disorder, so obviously I can't relate exactly, but I think that's part of what this game is probably trying to do, right, is to help those of us who don't deal with it understand how people who do have to deal with it, how they view things. So how accurate it is, I don't know. I can only tell you what my experience is with the game so far. So what's interesting is this level select is like you go into an area that deals with certain things. So for example, this section is my own little world, and there's different, I guess you could call them sub-levels within this level, but they're all self-contained, so I would still consider just calling them levels. This is okay as long as you finish that level. Let's go ahead and just jump into one so I can show you the basic mechanics on how they work, and then we'll jump into some of the more difficult levels later on. Now, the eyeballs aren't there to hurt you. They are just kind of, I guess, representative of people staring at you and how you feel as you always feel like, you know, even if they're not necessarily staring at you and judging you and everything you do, you still kind of might feel that way. So when you want to get away from them, you hide off in your cocoon in the shadows. And again, this is just my understanding or my interpretation of their interpretation of the social anxiety disorder angle of this game. There's also a lot of text in the background that's kind of trying to set the mood. The music, of course, does that as well. The music does change as you swap from normal mode to shadow mode, as I call it. So it says, monsters are near my home and I must go inside the tower. Now, my first issue right off the bat with this game is it's a platformer, and right now it's, you know, pretty easy, right? I just gotta avoid the spikes, just jump over them. Not too big of a deal. And you can't merge, like you can't go switch worlds unless it's enough space. Basically 2 blocks is what you need to go between the two. And the door is the exit. So we're gonna go over here and pop in. But as I was saying, one of my big complaints about this game is that it is a platformer, and at times a pretty difficult platformer. And typically I try to avoid reading other people's reviews of games just so they don't taint my own take on them, so that I'm giving a fresh perspective. But one thing I did actually notice in the user reviews, like 1 or 2 people mentioned, was that the platforming was difficult and frustrating from them, and took away from the theme of the game, which is, you know, you're trying to kind of, I mean, it's supposed to be obviously have the gameplay elements, but there's also that element of, again, representing what people who deal with social anxiety disorder deal with. And they felt that the difficulty sometimes kind of took away from that because you were getting so frustrated with it. It took you out completely, which is exactly how I felt with The Gods May Be Watching. I felt that game took away from that. As you can see, too, there's these symbols on the wall. The kind of like the half circle one here on the far left, and I'm pointing at the screen as if you can see it, indicates that everything in that direction will swap colors. So basically when it's triggered, and we'll do it again just for the heck of it, as you can see, now I'm falling through because it took the blocks away, it's going to reverse everything in that order. And you can see that these are pointing to the right, so it's going to follow right, and then that one pointed down, so it's going to go down. So most of the time, at least so far, that's not been a huge thing on having to pay very close attention to that. But later on, it actually does become important that you kind of look at that, because sometimes you'll have to make very quick decisions or kind of plan out how, okay, I'm going to hit a switch and it's going to make all of these blocks change colors. And if I don't move quickly, my opportunity is going to vanish. So again, you kind of see, oh, you know what, let's hurry up before we die. And those spikes are on the ground there, so we don't have to worry about them. We don't take falling damage or anything like that. Got a bunch of spooky eyes here. And hopefully you're paying attention to the text as well. Sometimes I get too into the game and I don't pay that much attention to the text. We're going to fall down here, right into that creepy eyeball. You just can't seem to get away from that. Now, you might be asking, well, how do you know when this stuff is going to change? Like, it seems random, right? When the colorations of the blocks changes. It depends. Sometimes it's by a switch. Sometimes when you hit a switch, that happens. Sometimes when you go to certain areas, it happens. But another frequent way is when you switch. You'll notice the blocks are switching whenever I go back and forth between the shadow world and the real world. So let's go ahead and just exit this level. And we'll go on in there. We're actually going to go back out. Let's go to a different area with different types of creatures. Eventually you do have other perils other than just the blades there. So let's go ahead and hop on over there. But as I kind of started to mention like 3 times, sorry, I'm bad about getting myself off track, is the game does not have controller support. This game screams for controller support, especially since it does have higher difficulty platforming. The keyboard works okay, but some of those jumps are pretty specific. So trying to do it with a keyboard, and it can be a bit tricky. And that comes from a keyboard purist, right? I play on PC. I play mostly PC games, and 95% of the games I play, I play with the keyboard and mouse. But this is a game that I absolutely think needs a controller because it does have some areas which you do have to be very specific. If it was more lenient on the jumping, I would say fine. But because we do have those areas that require more specific jumps, I really think that this game should have keyboard or controller support, especially because this game does have a theme of trying to educate or communicate what people with a certain, I guess, disorder have to deal with. Since that's a big theme of the game, I think it's okay to sacrifice difficulty for that. I think it would have been better, in my opinion, to have less of these difficult parts, because some people playing this type of game might not necessarily be good at games, but they kind of want to experience it. Maybe they have a friend or a relative who does have social anxiety disorder and wants to see what this interpretation of that is like, or somebody who does deal with social anxiety disorder and wants to play this game so that they can identify with it, or see if they do identify with it. But anyway, enough of that. Let's play through. Now you'll notice here on the ground we have some of these like pointing up circle bars that are filled in. That means they're seeds, and if you land on those, you get eaten. Now the stages also do not have waypoints, which again, for the most part's okay, but some stages can get pretty long and difficult, so it can be pretty frustrating to start all the way from the beginning. This is a bug also that I get hit with a lot when there's areas like this, like a tunnel, a tight tunnel to fall down. A lot of times the character kind of gets stuck and won't go down there. Of course, as I'm talking about it, it doesn't happen. But that's hit me quite a few times, and it's actually caused me to die a few times trying to get it to fall down the tunnel, especially when there's like a time limited factor. One other thing I do like about this game is that there are often multiple ways to get through a stage. I think that's cool. A lot of times it's pretty much just one way to get through a stage for the most part. This one so far has had a few opportunities where I've tried to go one way and either just tried to go another way and found it to be easier, or accidentally found another path that turned out to be, you know, just different. So there's a switch that I'm talking about, and the different symbols mean different things. I forget what the little eye symbol is, not the eyeball, but the capital I symbol that I'm about to land on. And it doesn't start until you jump again. So we're just gonna fall through here. It's gonna clap for us. Good job. Because see, I think when I beat this stage before, I think I did it on the left-hand side somehow. However, I'm faster. Well, that seems kind of condescending now. So let's go ahead and jump to another one. I'll probably just show 2 or 3 more stages. I think you get kind of the idea of how this works, and then we'll cover a little bit about the workshop stuff, which as far as I know, just levels. So some of it you kind of use these like elevators, which is pretty interesting. Another thing worth noting, if I can do this without dying, is if you flip over, some things will only hurt you in one mode. So for example, here you can see the seeds obviously do not hurt me. However, there are creatures, but the spikes will. So I have to look out for the spikes, but I don't have to worry about the seeds. Also, there's certain creatures that will only attack you or be able to hurt you while you're in shadow mode. And as you can imagine, they kind of mix these things up so that you have to kind of switch back and forth. And obviously you have to be careful between switching, because if you're not thinking and you're like, oh, let me go up top here. Oh, I immediately get killed by the plant. So it's something to think about. So let's hit that switch and jump. And we're going to kind of ride the elevator up. We'll see how far we can go. And there again, there are a few places like this where it helps if you kind of think fast, which obviously I did not do there. So I could have rode this up a little bit higher. And I probably could have gotten out easier because I could have come up all the way here and just jumped over to the right. But because I missed that opportunity, I'll have to do this, which is not as bad, except that I wasn't thinking. Again, that's why you have to pay attention, because you'll pop right out on a plant. And yes, I have killed myself a lot of ways that way because I wasn't paying attention. Sometimes I've run into a little bit of bugginess too, with like standing on steps that do that. Sometimes it can like push you, which I don't think that was necessarily a bug. But one time I've had issues where, like, kind of hard to explain, the timing was a little weird on the blocks coming up. Ended up getting like crushed, even though I had plenty of space, because you can get crushed as well. So for example, if I triggered something here that changed all the shadow blocks to white blocks and I didn't move, it can crush you, I guess, per se, because it's not, there's nowhere for you to go, is I guess my point. So there's nowhere we can go here, because we can't go this way, and if I switch over, as you saw, it will, I'll get hit by the plant. Also too, if it wasn't self-explanatory, the controls are pretty self-explanatory. I'm using the arrow keys to move around. Up jumps, left and right is left and right. Down switches to shadow mode, where down now jumps and left and right are still, you know, as you would expect. But I hit up to switch over. Pretty easy to switch back and forth. I don't want to fall down there because I don't know. Actually, no, we're safe to go down there. Are we safe to go down here though? I can't really see. No, we are not. There are seeds down there. So really, I don't know if there's really anywhere we can go this way. Or we could just get eaten by the plant. There are cases where you just get screwed and like there's nothing you can do. You can just hit R and that will restart the level. So it has not happened a whole lot, but it is something to be aware of. I'm trying to stay on top here. Oop. I was trying to show I actually get crushed there, but I did not. Obviously failed on doing that. So let's actually, you know what, we can't go that way either. How did I beat? I swear I actually beat this one. I actually vaguely recall, and if I can't beat it shortly, we'll skip on to the next area, because I'm pretty sure this is death. Yep, it's plants. We'll try one more time. Because see, that covers up the things down there. Oop, and that just pushed me off. All right, so we're done. We're done with that one. And we will go back out here. No point in just trying to show me beat the levels. Oh, dang it. Since I've already beat them, but again, so it's interesting in that it's a lot of it's jump precision, like jumping in between like areas with spikes that are close together, or spikes or other dangers where you have to, you know, carefully, gingerly jump in between them. But some of it is puzzle stuff, right? Like you have to figure out how to get through things. So you can see here, I've been through this way a few times. And so this section deals with fear and loneliness. And there are little cinematics that play when you go through a level to kind of, I think, trying to show what the various dangers of that area symbolize. The plant ones I'm honestly lost on. I don't quite get what's the deal with the plants, but yeah. So where am I? This one's a bit tricky, and some of the stages are kind of amusing in that where you think you're supposed to go can sometimes be totally wrong. And you end up barking up the wrong tree, and then find, oh, there was this way easier way to do this. So here's where it gets a little tricky, the mechanic of switching back and forth. So we're going to go through here. We want to drop down here so we don't get killed by the animal things. But of course you don't want to get stuck out there because, well, you get spiked. You can also jump over them if you want to do that. Another thing with these switches you have to be careful of is that these creatures can actually step on them. Which can cause some interesting scenarios that you were not expecting. So again, you can kind of see the shadow follows the pattern here. We don't want to swap over here. We want to jump over that plant. Look out for... Oh, and I stepped right into the plant. But you get how this one works. No point in, like I say, going all the way back through it. You understand. We were right there, and I just didn't see the plant. You do have to keep on your toes, or else they will get you. Actually, tell you what, let's be done with the official levels. As you can see, there was, how many? Like 40-something levels, 44 levels. I've been going through them pretty quickly. I don't consider myself to be a master of platformers, but I do pretty well at them. So if you're not as good at platformers, or if you're really good at them, that's going to, you know, vary on how quickly you beat the full game. And I assume that 44 or whatever it was is all the official levels. But the nice thing here is we can go to, well, where is it? We want to go. We want to go back. We want to go back one more step. We want to go, the video gallery does allow you to view some of the cinematics. I'm not going to play one because it plays the entire thing and you can't escape out of it. But if there's one cinematic in particular you liked or kind of missed the meaning of, you can do that. Also, there's a little bit of inconsistency with the keyboard controls. Like, for example, typically I can do almost everything with keyboard and mouse, or not keyboard and mouse, just keyboard, like escape, cursor keys, etc. Here's one of those cases I can't. I have to switch over to the mouse. Again, that's pretty minor, but it just kind of sticks out. It's a little bit of flow. I should be able to do that with the keyboard. Just saying. Not a big deal though. You also have the editor in here that you can do creating your own levels. I don't really go into that because I'm not very good at them, but it is there for you to do. So let's explore. This one's kind of cool. This allows you to play what I presume to be various workshop levels. So let's select the level, and we can see other players' levels. So let's go ahead, and this person's got a popular level. Ah, this one looks really good. It's very creative. So let's exit that level. And let's go with Prova. We've got 2 doors. Okay. I'm gonna guess some of these people hopefully were just trying to learn. Okay, here we go. Here's the level. I actually played this one accidentally. I just so happens to play this one before. So you can see here we got a little bit of trickiness there here. So let's drop down to avoid the seed first of all. Now those anteaters, if you walk into those, they will suck you up because, as you know, anteaters are a very real threat to America and the world, really. So we need to jump over the anteater, and we need to avoid the spikes because we can't just walk over there because, as you see, there's the spikes. So you can actually go one of 2 ways here. Which I like quite a bit, actually. I like how you have a choice. We can stick to the bottom and just avoid the anteaters, or we can go to the top and land right on the plant right after, you know, saying, be careful. Now, since we got to worry about those enemies coming down, we are going to try to go the bottom route. Let's see how close we can get. Now, this, I don't know if I can jump in between these guys. Looks like maybe not. We'll try it one more time. Oop. So, see, again, it's a little bit flaky sometimes with the hit detection. I would really, and I don't think a controller would help this particular thing out. Here we go. So if we carefully, oh, just barely made it over. So you can see, I like that. And again, this is a user's level. I like that there's 2 different ways that you can go there. And I can see these types of mechanics becoming more widely used once people get used to the level editor. Again, we have to, of course, have to look out for the plants. We could flip over here, but I think that's not probably going to work out no matter how you look at it, because you're just going to get killed by the enemies. So we're going to jump over that, and go through the level. And I think from there, it just takes you to a random level. Maybe. This one I've never played. So let's jump down here. We definitely do not want to land on the plant, so let's swap over. We got a little space here. I want to jump. All right, we're safe to fall down here. And we'll try this once or twice. Oh, God. Well timed. Good job, me. I like how the music changes when you go back and forth. I wish it was a little bit more subtle, like maybe a little bit of a fade out and a fade in when you switch back and forth. But again, pretty minor complaint there. This person thinks we're a disgrace. Or again, they could just be going with the whole theme of the game. There we go. Now, I don't quite get why it doesn't just take you back out. I also don't know why that happen? Like the doors just opening and closing? I don't know. Oh, actually, I think the game is freaking out right now. Oh, come on. Let's go back. Go back. You can also rate the level. So I don't know, maybe that was a collection of levels where you played multiple in a row. I honestly don't know. I also cannot... My character's gone now, so I think that might have freaked the game out. But that was about to stop there anyway. So there are definitely some little bit of rough edges on the game. Sometimes, like I said, sometimes like when you're falling down a small tunnel, the game will get stuck. Like you're kind of walking over the hole, but you're not quite falling in, and you have to jump just to make it fall through. But for the most part, it's been pretty solid. I mean, I guess there's not much to it as far as that goes. The only other thing I could think of to show you would be the options. There's not really a lot of them. You can turn the sound off and on, but there's no volume adjustment. I really dislike when there's not at least a music adjustment, like a volume adjustment. I don't like just having it on and off. Other than that, there's not a whole lot of options here, which, you know, graphical options, that type of stuff, you're not really going to expect a whole lot. But at least I would have liked to have a music and sound effects option to at least hear the music, but I don't want it blaring necessarily either. But anyway, yes, that was Sym. Again, you can pick it up for $7.99 on the Steam store. I will have all relevant links in the description below the video. It's an interesting little game. Again, how well it depicts social anxiety disorders, I honestly couldn't tell you, but I can kind of see what they're going for with the whole, like, the light side kind of. My interpretation being that that's you, or at least that's the face you put on in public, and then the shadow you is more when you're trying to get away from people and again retreat to the shadows, retreat to your cocoon by yourself to be away from people where you're really safe, which I can identify with that part. I'm definitely a very I'm a recluse. I enjoy just being by myself, but I don't really have disorder in the way I think they're depicting it here, which is, you know, that's totally fine. I understand what they're going with. So, the one thing, again, I will say, if you're going to play this because you kind of want to try to relate with a social anxiety disorder, be warned that some stages do get pretty difficult. I didn't really show any of those off, but there are definitely some that are longer and require some pretty specific jumping. You might get frustrated with that, and I do think that a little bit that does take away from the theme of the game. But for the most part, it's not been too difficult. Anyway, that's enough for today. Thank you guys for watching. If you'd like to see more games that you might not have heard of, make sure to subscribe. Make sure to also leave comments in the comment section below. Follow me on Twitter, and I will see you next time.